Games, Brains, Head-Banging Life here with another track by track. We are looking at another Machine Head album. Is this our third or second? We've done Burn My Eyes. It's only our second. We've done Burn My Eyes, and now we're doing Through the Ashes of Empires. Arguably the most important Machine Head album, I think, for both of us.
Yeah. This was a life-affirming, game-changing.
For you, it was, but I always feel it's important for me to tell this story. I was not a Machine Head fan. I knew Machine Head songs. I listened to the obvious ones, Davidian, old Tenton Hammer off the early albums when they were played on radio stations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was actually Supercharger that I knew the most. Not Supercharger, sorry. The Burning Red that I knew the most songs from. The ones that were popular. I'm a fledgling metal fan and so on. And then there was Supercharger, which had again things like Bulldoze. And I did listen to these albums, but I would never was a fan of. I would never call myself a Machine Head fan. And you spent ages banging on about this album and one song in particular from this album, and you insisted, like you often do, even way back then, we're still doing it. And I can remember, this is how crazy, I can remember where I was when I fully heard this song, and it changed everything. Yeah. And I was standing at a bus stop on Shooters Hill Road, going in for coming home from a late shift. I was still CSA on my job then, and so that kind of started the ball rolling, really, and there's been no looking back.
Yep.
Fifth studio album by Machine Head, released on December 16th, 2003. An album, you know the history way more than I do, an album of trouble.
Yeah. Kind of an album that...
Coming out of the trouble.
Yes, stopped the troubles. So, like you're right, it got released in December 2003, but it actually got released in 2004 around March in the US.
Oh.
After its initial success prompted Roadrunner to reverse their decision of kicking Machine Head off the label.
Cunts.
And basically say, look, we'll give you a new contract. So then they quickly tried to push it out. 3 months later, they got it out in the US, because at that point there was no plans for it to be released in the US because there was no label, no distributor. And that's why if you pick up like a special edition or a US version of this, it has an extra song on it called Seasons With Her.
Yep.
Which was on the US version only.
Okay.
So we didn't get that on the European.
Or okay,
else. Yeah. The other thing that's quite interesting about this album is that a lot of people credit Phil Demmel's Arrival as for the change in sound that Machine Head kind of came to.
Right.
You know, because this is so Aru left obviously after Supercharger.
Yeah.
And then Phil Demmel joined the band. Him and Rob both from Violence, and then maybe that prompted a heavy sound, but it's actually not accurate. Because Phil only joined after the album was fully written. He joined for recording only. Every song, if you look even in the inlay covers, every song is written by Rob, Dave and Adam.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Ooh.
Boom, that knocks down that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, we begin. Oh God, did we begin?
Yeah.
Jesus, we begin with Imperium. And I'm just going to read this because I wrote a fucking paragraph for this for some reason.
He doesn't do paragraphs.
Up There is one of my favourite Machine Head songs ever. Top 3 for sure. The build to the eruption is the stuff of Metal Dreams. It's so heavy and damn what a showcase of what the new Machine Head were going to be following Supercharger. It's always my number one pick for the track they should open every show with. The statement vocal part by Rob is headbanging gold.
Yeah.
Imperium, it has been for a very, very long time one of my all-time favourite songs, if not, and I've always, even when we did our set list, I always say Imperium's number one. Imperium start, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I pretty much, echo the same sentiments, really. I just want a way to introduce yourself on a comeback album.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think I'm right. It's the heaviest song Machine Head have ever written. It's just a brilliant slab of metal, a live favourite, and any doubts about what Machine Head would sound like post-Supercharger get blown away within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't
Yeah,
think
once
there's...
it kicks in, I think everyone you go, yeah, all right, this is going to be a special track.
It's one of those where you like someone, the people who hate Machine Head, and you sit them down and they're like, oh, you go, right, so we've heard Imperium, and they're like, yeah, it's shit.
Yeah.
I want you to explain to me what the fuck is shit.
Justify that.
Like, you don't have to like the band, you don't have to like Rob, but don't be stupid. Like, there's no disputing it's a fucking top class song. Bite the Bullet. Now it is tough to follow Imperium, but this one's shorter and intensity-driven, with intensity-driven riffs. I find it easy to draw connections to the previous release with this, thanks to the clean singing.
Yeah.
However, the chorus is fucking fire.
Yeah.
What, that chorus? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's another banger. I think it's really groovy, really catchy. Weirdly, though, for me, though, it's the verses that I adore here. I think the chorus is good, but it's the verses that are fire.
Okay, yeah.
I love the ending, too, with squealing guitars over the whole, you want more, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Well, the guitars are just squealing away in the background, man. But it's a really, I mean, you're right, it would have been so tough to follow Imperium. Yeah. I think, like, it's a really good follow-up. Really good.
I wonder the amount of work it must have been putting this album together when you've written the tracks, because you're writing an order and it's like, right, where do we go? Where does this get put?
That's why
where
I
does
think
that
it's
get
a really
put?
smart move to start with Imperium.
Yeah,
they would have known people are going to be wondering what our sound is.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, what are we going to start with?
And we'll get to it, but also like the ending track for like the bridge between what would be the blackening is like that is either accidental luck or genius. But anyway, before then we get Left Unfinished. I think the nursery melody doesn't quite prepare you for what follows as the head just erupt. Big fan of this track, although it does seem to have a bit of an identity crisis at times. Still, quality.
Yeah. No, I love this song. This is one of my favourites.
Yep.
It was never my favourite because there's only ever been one favourite on the album. But, it's a firm favourite of mine. I love it. It really drips with like anger and emotion. It feels quite personal. I love the chorus.
Yep.
I love there's like little moments and songs on this album, and this one has one of them. Where there's a bit where when it does the I'll never forget, but the drums do it in time, so it kind of
That's it, yeah.
It's really clever, man. I love then the end of the chorus when they harmonise these for all those things you've left unfinished. But it's a really good song. Man.
It is a really good song. Elegy,
yeah.
I can say that. Chunky riffs and some darkness to the clean singing. That this is so different to what came before makes it stand out, but I don't love it. That's it. It's just I don't love it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
It took me some getting into. It definitely wasn't an instant hit with me. The slower groove. Although I've always liked the melodic middle bit, which has the clean singing and builds up a little bit again. I appreciate it now a lot more than I did back then, but it's not one of my favourites.
Okay. Right. In the presence of my enemies. Now, bear with me. I've wrote a paragraph.
Oh, we got another paragraph.
Yeah, which is a weird one because I chose it for this. But I just wonder how you feel when I say these words. Building up like a track from the burning red. Once the drums start, it quickly becomes clear it's certainly not that. The build evolves, and as the chunkiness of the guitars really start, it's something pretty special. All about that intro, though, even if the rest is classy Machine Head metal.
That's all right.
Okay.
All right.
Just because I wondered if me reference the Burning Red with the intro and the build was like, you're going to be like,
I mean, there are moments across this album where I feel like I can pick out superchargery bits and the Burning Red. It is, don't get me wrong, it's a massive diversion.
Yep.
Although it's not really because they were a diversion.
But
it's a diversion from them two sounds. But it's not a complete, they never existed. You can pick out parts of it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm completely okay with it because I like both of them albums. I think it's really, really good, man. I think the lyrics in this one are great. Really, really good. If you read the lyrics to this, man, it's a proper story.
Yeah.
A real Machine Head kind of story. And I love the brutal ending. The On Your Grave, I Will Stand bit is just vicious, man.
Yeah. Days Turn Blue to Grey. One of the best melodic tracks Machine Head have ever done.
Yeah.
The chorus is out of fire. Rob sounds amazing. The ending segment is just, it's top shelf stuff, man. Filthy good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same for me. It's a great song. I love the main riff, love the vocals, but the bass groove is ridiculous. But it's always been about the slow down, the gentle singing at the end that starts building back up again. That's the bit that I fell for in this song.
Yeah, it is. Same here. It's not massively like any major shift in this album and so on, but it was real like, oh wow, here's some melody.
It's just moments in it. Songs with moments, man. And you listen to a song and you're enjoying it, and then something happens, no matter how small it is, or a little harmony or a little solo, whatever it is, and you're like, it just elevates tracks higher.
Yep.
And that's what that has at the end of it. And Days Turn Blue to Grey.
You're gone and take
A bit of a forgotten track, I feel. No good reason though, as it's proper solid heaviness, and the main riff is a banger.
Yeah, it's a good song. It is. It isn't quite up there with the best songs in this album.
No.
But that's not its fault. Love the drum intro, solid riff, great solo. Yeah, just doesn't quite hit the extreme heights of some other songs, unfortunately, for it, which is why it gets forgotten. I think.
That's exactly why it's forgotten when you've got such clasp around it. Now, I have included The Seasons With Her.
Oh, right, I didn't, just because I didn't think you'd have it because of it being a US one, but
it wasn't a song I got regular play, but the
I know it well
the album list I listened to had it on it, and I recognised it, and I listened to it. So I'm going to talk about it. Seasons With Her, an eerie intro that builds on volume, changes the pacing briefly before out of nowhere it goes mental. One of the more out-and-out heavy tracks on the album, and dare I say, even a bit thrashy.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing I took from it.
Yeah, no, I like it too. I actually, I do feel a little bit like it is what it is though, which is, this got released in December.
Yeah.
The next version released in March, and to apologise to the US fan base, Machine were told to get a song out to add to it.
Okay, you reckon it was that? I reckon it was
think it's
a cutting floor.
Do you
thing.
think so? Yeah, possibly.
Just something that had been cut, and it was like, oh look, let's tack something on for the US fans. All Falls Down, memorable for the clean singing Rob does more than anything else, and it's got some really mellow vocals in this one.
Yeah. So, oh, hang on. Yeah, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry. I think it's a great song. I really, really like it. I think the chorus is brilliant. The intro is pretty cool. They're also a little weird. I love how it builds up. I love they do this a lot on this album, man. They do this kind of suck you in, build up, and then explode. But it's the harmonised singing that I love. It's again similar to Days Turn Blue to Grey. Really, it's I like the song a lot. And then
boom,
that happens,
just grabs you.
Yeah, that's it, banging.
Then we get penultimate track, Wipe the Tears. For me, the worst song on it, at least the one I like, the one I dislike the most. I also find vocally dangerously close to rapping. Dangerously.
Yeah, I mean, I pointed that out as well. I wrote the verses are as close as they get to Supercharger on this album. Heavied up a bit, but they're very close.
Yeah.
I do like it as a song. Again, I point out it's not as good as the best on it, but I like the slowdown. I like the harmonised vocals. I think there's a lot on it that I like. So, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the songs on this album suffer purely because when I say I put this album on and I'm going to play a couple of tracks, I tend to gravitate towards 3 or 4 of them, every single time.
Agreed, because it's obviously a big old album as well, and you may not have enough time, and chances are you might do a couple from the first half, and then you're going to skip to this, the final track, and arguably the greatest track Machine Head have ever written, in the sense that for the time more than anything else, they might have written more huge, expansive, bigger efforts on later albums like Halo and stuff like that. But I think for the impact, I think we're both always going to have incredible appreciation for Descend the Shades of Night. Yeah,
it's my overall personal favourite Machine Head track across all of their stuff.
Which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
It was for someone who was listening to From This Day and Bulldozer and things like that and liking them.
Yeah.
This was something fucking else.
Yeah, I think it's probably not, but to me, it's the perfect song. I think it just has everything I love about metal in it. You know, everything from the clean stuff, the build up, the well written lyrics, the solo, the dual guitar solo is just fucking phenomenal. It's got plenty of brutality, you know, the bit that comes in after the solo, for example. But and again, it's just got moments in it. We've spoken about this moment before, but like in the intro to the second verse of it, when Dave adds in a little extra snare, it just goes little tiny drum behind the acoustic melody.
Yep.
And it's just little tiny attention to detail that you just feel like this wasn't the sort of track that they threw together in a studio in a day.
No, God, no, yeah.
And it's something they've worked on, I would imagine, re-recorded.
Oh, yeah.
100 times.
Can we do this here? Can we do that there? Does that work? It's something we would come up on later Machine albums as well that we've always heavily praised, which is when you hit those second chorus or second verses and stuff like that. And it either extends it slightly or it just does something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And
it's tiny, isn't it? It's tiny little things. And sometimes, you know, you could miss it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like Halo's one of them ones where in the second verse he extends that O part of the word Halo.
And it's wonderful. It's an incredible closure. And like we said, if it was an accident that because this is the most obvious where Machina were going with the blackening on the entire album. And if it was accidental, wow. But both wows. If it was accidental, Jesus Christ. If it was on purpose, What foresight!
Yeah.
You know?
But I like to, think that, well, you can, if you plot things out and look at the growth of the band over time, including the diversion, because it didn't all disappear. Like there are little moments. You had a Burning Red moment. I took a little Supercharger moment out of it.
Yep.
And yeah, they didn't take much from those albums,
Of
but
course.
that obviously still influenced them. And then you see them going to this, and then from there to the Blackening, and from there to Locust. And it's nice to be able to see, like, it looks like natural growth.
Yeah,
like
it does, yeah.
They're getting older, more mature, they're changing as a band. It looks like a natural thing. It doesn't look overly forced, like maybe where the Burning Red might have looked a little forced.
Yep.
It looks like they came back in with a point to prove, proved it, and then just followed a natural line from there. Because there isn't... Until some songs and modern day stuff, I don't think there's a huge gulf between... either in quality or in style between these three albums.
Yeah.
So Through the Ashes of Empires, Blackening, and Locust.
Yeah.
All three of them, you could easily play any song from any of those to any person and they'd know it's the same band.
Yep.
I
think so, yeah.
Whereas I think if you play songs from this, play songs from Locust, and then say Banged On From This Day, a non-fan might not pick out that it's the same band.
And it's weird that they would actually... I think this is now not underappreciated, but I think this is a bit of a forgotten release from Machine Head because they would follow with the Blackening.
This is one of their lowest sales albums.
Interesting.
Even though what it did though is it garnered a lot of praise from reviewers and the like, and that's
critics.
what got them the record deal back, not sales.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was putting things together for this, but also I remember hearing Rob talk about it before. About how everyone hates on Supercharger and all that, but Supercharger in Europe has outsold this, the Blackening, everything like that. Yes, it's been out longer.
It's funny that, isn't it? Yeah.
But when you look at the numbers for this, like they had the numbers for the record sales for the bands. This is one of their lowest selling albums. It's mental.
Mental, yeah. It's flabbergasting.
All it
when
is,
it's
I
so
guess
quality.
maybe you've lost so many people from that. The press loved this one, and then the fans kind of started getting on board. And then maybe off the back of all that good reviews, people then bought into the next one.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't quite ready to come in for this one, but...
Maybe, and say complications of where it was being sold and stuff didn't help.
It's terrifying, isn't it? That means that there is a vast majority of metal fans and Machine Head fans and other people that have never heard Descend the Shades of Night.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Yeah, absolutely crazy. There you go. We banged on a bit because it's a much more personal album than anything else.
Yep.
But there's a track by track for Through the Ashes of Empires by Machine Head. Let us know what you think in the comments. Tell us your favourite track. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?